Bodybuilding is a very extreme pursuit. Very individual. Win or lose, it's down to me. If there was a Dorian who had a nice, stable family, you know, support and encouragement, would Dorian Yates the bodybuilder exist? No. I put myself through some fucking pain and some shit, and I needed fuel for that. Probably I used a lot of anger that was almost like violence. It was all internalized, and then it was...
Do you think that's the purpose of our body? We're here to test its limits, to get us to another spiritual level?
We're here in a pretty tough place for us to be in. In our core, we're not just physical beings. I'm in control here. Following the spiritual path is not always easy. It's what we're here to experience and to learn. I just try to focus on myself, raise my vibe, and raise the vibe of anyone that I can touch. When the vibe changes, yeah, the reality changes.
They say that the human race is doomed, that we have lost touch with our true nature, that the media has corrupted us, and that the planet has no future. I disagree. I believe that humanity is full of hope, and that our salvation lies within each one of us. My name is Brian Rose, and my job is to listen, the oldest method of learning known to man. Each week I seek out individuals that are changing the world, people who are living and thinking in a different way. Their stories will challenge your beliefs, make you question your choices, and perhaps inspire you to change. I never planned on doing any of this, but now I can't stop. Join me on this mission and make humanity something we can all be proud of.
Dorian Yates is back in the building, the 6-time Mr. Olympia, the feature of one of London Reel's documentary films. It's been 6 years now that I've been tracking the evolution of this incredible man. He first came on London Reel in January of 2013, and now he's back, and he's better than ever. He's tanned, he looks amazing, and he's talking about what got him to the top in his sport and how bodybuilding really is not what it used to be. So many kids these days are looking back to the greats of the 90s as the best physiques ever and looking at the current competition as guys that just don't work hard enough. Dorian Yates goes into how hard he used to work. Of course, we talk about steroids, the competition, and the mindset. He also talks about his own evolution and spirituality and how we can all become closer connected to each other. I know you're gonna love this episode. And inside London Reel, in the Academy, we're busy teaching people how to turn their passions into businesses. I'm teaching people how to publicly speak, start their own podcasts, and adopt new habits for the new year. All of that's happening inside. I personally mentor my students. Here's a little bit more about what we do.
London Reel doesn't stop when the conversation ends. You see, that's when we get started. Because everything begins with a thought, and then comes the action. The London Reel Academy is our global transformation platform. Here we bring together thousands of students from over 75 countries. Whether you want to build a profitable business from your passion, or learn to speak to inspire, or broadcast yourself with your very own podcast, or accelerate your life to become a high-performance person, we have the online accountability course and personal mentoring program that will make your dream a reality. Join us, and we'll take your life to the next level, together. Our next accelerator course is starting soon.
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Dorian Yates, the former professional bodybuilder who was crowned Mr. Olympia 6 consecutive times from 1992 to 1997 and holds the 4th highest number of Mr. Olympia titles of all time. You are widely considered to be one of the top athletes in bodybuilding history, and you are the most popular guest in the 7-year history of London Real. You are also the feature of our very first documentary film, Dorian Yates Inside the Shadow, and I consider you to be an important mentor, a dear friend, and a powerful visionary. Dorian, welcome back to London.
Thanks, man. Great to be on number 3. And it's an amazing compliment that I'm the most popular guest on here, because you have so many amazing guests on here that I look up to and I can learn things from. So it's amazing, all the people you've had on here. I'm big fans of all of them.
No, and you know, we were looking back through the dates, and you were here the first time, January 7th, 2013, almost 6 years ago. And we didn't know what we were getting into, did we?
No, neither of us, I don't think. You know, I always had a lot of fans, but the reaction's different now. It's more emotional. And it's not just about bodybuilding, it's about something bigger. I just remember about 3 weeks ago, we did the Arnold Classic in Barcelona. And a lot of people coming up, and I mean, the podcast, London Real, gets mentioned a lot. The Joe Rogan show, which I would never be on if I wasn't on London Real first. And a guy came to me and holding my hand and he's like, Dorian, you saved my life. I mean, we're both there with tears in the eyes, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. You know, so this is feedback for me to keep doing this and keep talking. Half an hour later, another guy comes up. He says to me exactly the same thing. Look in my eye, you don't understand, man. I mean, you don't know, but you saved my life. I'm like, shit, man, if I ever feel down, I'm just going to think about these guys and, you know, just keep doing what I'm doing. So it's amazing. You
know, this medium is really powerful. And when you're so open and honest, you know, it changes lives.
Oh, we're full of, I mean, we're in a world that's full of a lot of bullshit and false things. So I think people instinctively recognize when somebody's just being honest and genuine, and they're encouraged to be able to do the same thing themselves and be who they are and say what they want to say. Where a lot of time people feel it's not safe to do that. So yeah, it's had a great effect. So here we are again.
Here we are again. And you know, you always seem to come back in certain intervals. And you know, it was just January 7th was the first time, 2013. About 18 months later, in August 2015, you came back, completely, you know, different you, new ideas, new energy. Then we went down to see you in Spain, end of 2016, made the movie. You came to the London premiere at BAFTA, which was really epic.
I mean, it was great to be in the BAFTA, you know, and have a movie made about myself and my life and my thoughts. That was great, so thanks for that.
And that had a massive impact on everyone there and everyone afterwards. And now it's been about 18 months, and you're back again. Yeah. You know, I know you kind of intentionally say, you know what, Brian, I'm only going to come back when I feel like I have something new to say, and when it's been a certain amount of time. Yeah,
I mean, I don't want to, you know, want people to get bored. We want to, you know, want to have an impact, some kind of impact every time. The show has been very impactful on people, so I'm a bit wary of doing it too often, and you have so many great guests. So yeah, I think it's been a good period with the 2 interviews and the movie, which was great. So maybe I have some more things to talk about now. I mean, things have changed a lot for me from the show and from the movie. I've released my autobiography, you know, From the Shadow, and the movie was Inside the Shadow. And actually, at the premiere of the movie is where I kind of met with my now business partner, and we launched the Shadow line. Sports nutrition, bodybuilding nutrition line. So it's been Shadow has been following me around, man, since we came on air, but in a great way.
And when it comes to bodybuilding, it really looks like people are looking back to the early days as these models, which you never would have expected. You know, even if I would have interviewed you maybe in 95 or 96, if you would have talked to me at the time, I don't know, and you would have said, what's the future of bodybuilding? You probably would have thought it would have evolved and got better, but nowadays these kids are looking back to you guys in the 90s and saying this was maybe the peak.
Purely bodybuilding, I really think so, yeah, because now it's diversified. From 80s and 90s it was pretty much purely bodybuilding. Now there's a whole industry, if you like, fitness industry, And of course, the social media's had a huge impact on that. A lot more people going to the gym, but maybe they're not bodybuilding. And then they look at the bodybuilders now, and because of the social media and the internet, they're getting exposed to the guys like myself and Flex Wheeler and Kevin Levrone and Sean Ray and all these guys from the 90s. And they're like, wow, look at these guys. Maybe they look better, and this was 20 years ago. And I think there was a different, was much more work ethic then. Now it seems to be a lot of it is a bit superficial. It's more like how you look, and people in the gym with a phone and taking selfies and not really focusing on doing the work. So I think people recognize that as well. There's something really genuine there that inspires them.
Do you think if there was a Dorian Yates that was pushing everybody harder, that they would have to really work harder, the standard would be higher, that things would be different?
Well, I don't. That's what the guys from the 90s say now. You know, now that we're all older and we're all relaxed, and you know, we can all recognize that it was a pretty special time that we were in the 90s of bodybuilding. There was so many good people there, you know. So yeah, it's great that the young people now are looking back, and you know, Flex Wheeler, Kevin Levrone, they kind of relaunched their careers, if you like, and it's helping me along as well. So perfect. It's
nice to see that respect,
yeah.
You know, happen.
And we have this mutual respect now. After all this is gone, even myself and Sean Ray were like polar opposites, and he don't like me very much. I don't like him very much, and we had that competitive needle that was always there. Now, you know, we can laugh about that and we can shake hands, and we respect each other, because you're only as good as the people that in a sport. You're only as good as the people you're competing against. And I believe that was the best bunch of guys in the 90s. So I came out #1 on that bunch. So yeah, I feel very honored to be there. And the guys say that to me. They say, you know, we went the extra mile because we were chasing you all the time, crazy ass, over there in England, and we don't know what you're doing, and you know, but we know that you're just pushing all the time. So we gotta, you know, we gotta keep pushing. We got this shadow looming over us, so we can't really sit back and relax too much. You know, well, maybe, you know, if you feel like you're ahead of the pack, you can chill out a little bit and you know, have some fun. So I don't know. I mean, Dorian Yates now wouldn't be able to be like the Dorian Yates of before, because you know, social media and everything like that. So it's a different day. I could do that. I could disappear a little bit and be off the radar, but I guess it'd be very difficult to do that now.
Yeah, you couldn't be the shadow, could you?
It'd be very difficult, man. I mean, you know, you pretty much got to, before the exposure that you had was the magazines. So, you know, you do your shoot for the magazines, you do your interview, and then you can disappear from everybody's life apart from through this magazine. Which meant that there was a great demand to see us personally more than now, because you can go on the internet and see everything.
And you being this shadow figure that they just could not check in. They couldn't check Instagram. They couldn't see.
No, that's it. It's the mystery.
They just assumed probably the worst.
Yeah, it's just the mystery. And I knew this, you know. I was pretty good instinctively at, you know, kind of sports psychology. I know what goes on with people. So I didn't want them to know anything about me, you know. If I was in Gold's gym every day and they saw me training, they see everything, you know, they know something about it. They can get, you know, they can see if you're having a good day or a bad day. I prefer that people didn't know anything, so I'd just be like an enigma that they would be kind of in the back of their mind, and they'll be worrying about that, you know. It'd be very difficult to be the shadow now and still be active, unless you're just going to do a contest a year and disappear. But it's not really practical now. So in different times, you know, times change and everything changes. Now we've got the fitness industry, which is a lot of people involved, but I think bodybuilding has actually declined, probably. Whereas the rest of the gym industry, people going for fitness, CrossFit, men's physique, there's so many different outlets and categories now, which is great. More people are getting in the gym and exercising. I'm all for that. I'm not, because I was a bodybuilder, you know, really, wow, I only like bodybuilding. I think any kind of sports and exercise is a really positive thing. Man, I don't do a lot of weights now because of my injuries. It's not really practical for me. As you know, I do yoga, I do biking, I can even swim now without sinking. you know, because I got less muscle and everything, more mobile. But I just like exercise. I think it's a beautiful thing, and I think I'd be lost without exercise.
It's interesting how you talk about how the lack of information, you know, when you were training in the 80s and 90s brought kind of better results, you know, and the fact that people may be in fear of somebody out there doing more than them that drove them even further. And then the lack of, there was no internet really back then, so you couldn't find the information, and yet you still were able to create this physique that now people are looking at as maybe one of the best of all times.
Yeah, you could find the information in books and magazines, but way much less than now. So now you've got more information on everything, but it doesn't mean all the information is correct or good. So you've got to sift through it. And somehow with more information and more technology and more, somehow you lose the heart, I think. You lose the heart, you lose the work ethic. Guys come to me and they're asking me, you know, what about this carb backloading or something? I'm like, man, I never fucking heard of that, yeah? What is that? I don't know, yeah? It's this and that and this and that. I'm like, look, man, most things are basic, yeah? But I don't care which information you got. Keep it simple, keep it basic. But don't forget this. It's about fucking hard work, man. There's no special this, special routine, special diet, special that can get you out of the hard fucking work, yeah? If you don't like hard work, then really do something else, man, because this is what it's about. And for me, it was about challenging myself, you know? And if it's not difficult, where's the challenge? So that was the beauty of the thing for me. Challenging myself is more than just building the body. It was challenging my soul. It was, you know, it's challenging everything. You know, can override those instincts. I'm fucking starving, man. I want to eat. No, you can't. Like, so it's a test of will as well, through the whole process. So sometimes with too much information, you lose that, you know?
Yeah. People lose sight of that, and they're looking at the Instagram, and they're looking at the quickest way to do X, Y, Z, and they're using the information as almost like a procrastination tool sometimes.
Yeah, or, you know, the 1 month you're going to listen to this guy, and then the next month you're going to listen to this guy. You're going to find your own way. So it's interesting to listen to all these things, but hard work is the core. And people ask me about my training routines, and I say it's not just me, because I know other people, yeah? Arnold, Lee Haney, Dorian Yates, Ronnie Coleman. We all do basically the same thing, more or less. The same exercises. I did the same exercises for my back, for this, for legs. Well, when shall I change my routine? When shall I change that? Every 6 weeks? Every 8 weeks? Like, no. If it's a fucking exercise that it works, you don't need to change it. You know, only if you're like, you need to stimulate yourself mentally. Maybe you're doing this exercise, somehow you get stale on it, and you get, you know, you're not getting excited about it. You could change it a little bit for that reason. I don't think there's a physical reason to change. Bench press, incline press, flies. That's the chest routine of pretty much everybody. You know, I didn't like bench press because it was flat bench press, because it put a lot of, for me, my mechanics, it was working more front delt and not so much pecs. So I had to use a low decline or something like that. But it's a small change, flat bench or low decline. It's still bench press, incline press, you know. So we'll do fairly much, you know, little variances, but very much the same things. So don't get caught up in the, you know, the technicalities and the fancy routines and stuff too much. Just keep that core there that's about working, hard working, and challenge yourself. And if you challenge yourself and you overcome, then you feel good, man. You feel good, you know? So just keep doing that, and it builds on itself.
I got a small glimpse into what you're talking about when I went down to train with you in Marbella for the movie.
The little talk I give you about your gun to your baby's head, that's been used a lot, man. I pinched it from somewhere else, I got to be honest. I heard it somewhere else.
For people that haven't watched the movie and they should go watch it, what did you tell me that day?
I told you that your physical output is only going to be as good as your motivation. Yeah. So I just use that as an example because I knew you just had a baby. So I wanted to get inside your head and visualize. I get a fucking gun to the most precious thing in the world to you. And imagine if I'm like, you got to do one more rep or the gun's going to go off, man. I mean, you know, it's not real, but it's just a scenario to create and to like, this is what you need, man. Fucking desperation to push through that last rep, to know where is your limit. a lot of people that come to train with me, I do one-on-ones and so on, a limited amount anyway. And I help people, and I've got my own certification, DYHIT, which is certifying trainers in my method so they can go to wherever they are and correctly. Because a lot of people, I heard people there and they're great, and they're like, Dorian, I've got your video, I've got your book, I've read all the articles, and I thought that I was training like you, and I thought, but I wasn't quite there, because it's a little bit more that you can squeeze out, or there's a little bit more in the technicality, the performance of the movement, like the angle of the body and holding it here and doing it. All these little things add up. So even people that are training on my methods, when they come to train with me, they get a little bit more out of it. And a lot of it is psychological, to say, right, you think, I've got people ready to put the weight down, and I got 3 or 4 more reps out of them. I said, look, you did that. You lifted that weight. I didn't touch it, man. I mean, it looked like I was going to touch it if you needed it, but I didn't actually touch it. So you did 3 or 4 more reps. So that shows you're physically capable of doing that. You just did it, right? Why weren't you doing it before? Because you didn't know that you could do it. You didn't know there was some more there, but I got it out of you, and now you know. So now you can take that with you back wherever you're going to go, and you know that you can do a little bit more than you think every time. So just, I'm not going to be there every day shouting in your ear, and like my presence is not going to be there, but you can remember this and take it with you. So.
And afterwards you said to me, you said, yeah, Brian, but that's every day you do that.
Yes.
Every day you go to a place that's so painful, you go into such a visualization that maybe is so grotesque, that gets you into this mental space to push out that last 3 extra reps. And you do it day after day after day.
Yeah.
That's what makes a champion, right?
And it's not just the reps. I mean, hopefully, maybe, when you were doing your Ironman and you're doing the cycling and you're doing the swimming, you took a bit of that there. Like when you feel tired, or like, no, man, there's more there, and I'm in control here. Yeah, I'm in control here, not my instincts. You know, my instinct to stop, it's getting uncomfortable. I'm going to override that with this. So, yeah. And with no challenge, you don't move forward. You know, you have to be a little uncomfortable sometimes to move forward. Otherwise, we sit here and everything's great, and don't need to do anything, right? And sometimes we don't like it. I mean, I'm here, and people listen to me like a mentor. But I always think it's important to say, listen, man, I'm not up here like I haven't got all the fucking answers, man. I have bad days as well, you know? Sometimes I listen to myself on London Real. Like, wow, yeah, listen to this guy, it's me, you know? So we're still all learning all the time. So I think sometimes people that are in a position of teaching, they're a bit on a pedestal, and they're like, you look at them and you think, well, everything's perfect in their world, but I don't really think that's so. Maybe one day I'll be sitting here and just levitating and everything's great. I don't know. Maybe on another London Reel, but you know, it's important to tell people, hey, listen, you know, I won 6 Mr. Olympia trophies. I'm here on London Reel and this and that. But you know, sometimes sometimes I can catch myself slipping. So it's good. I listen to myself sometimes, or some other people, just get some inspiration.
Get some of that energy back.
Yeah, because you know, it's very easy. You get a negative thought, and this can spiral. You know, or you get a positive one and it starts building on itself. So when you get the negative ones, you got to try to whoop and shift direction.
Yeah, I did use that on my Ironman race.
Yeah.
And one of my trainers, her name's Samantha, you'll see her in the movie, and she said, Brian, the brain always shuts down before the body. She said that over and over.
Yeah.
And they've done tests on it, and she said it's a scientific fact, and we know that. And I train with Dorian, so I know that. And so you just realize that, you know. And then David Goggins says most people quit at 40%. So you know you have these things. And I would go for these long runs, Dorian, sometimes 30-kilometer runs, and my brain would start to tell me little stories and try to trick me.
Yeah.
And say, oh, your knee hurt, Brian. You didn't eat breakfast.
Yeah.
Oh, you're getting a little old. Maybe you should save it for next weekend. You don't want to get an injury. And
absolutely.
It would start playing tricks with me.
Absolutely, man.
I'm sure that used to happen to you
all the
too.
time, man, all the time. And especially like the worst situations I had was with the injuries. That's when I was close. You know, I was thinking like this, what can I do with this? I guess I can't do anything. I remember twice that happened to me. And that lasted for about 2 days. And I didn't act on it. You know, if I'd have ran out then and said, screw this, it's all over, and like, stuffed my face and it would have been down, down, down. But I managed to stop it and say, hey, I got the injuries. Not ideal, of course, but let's see what we can do with this, best case scenario. And a couple of times I pulled it out of the bag there.
It was your last couple of competitions when you were really injured.
Yeah.
And so you competed anyways.
Yeah, I said, look, I got injured. This is going to restrict me. This is going to limit me. But let me see what I can do, if it's going to be good enough. Like if I decide the day before the contest, look, there's no way I compete. The day before I can decide that, not 4 weeks out or 6 weeks out, when if I decide then, that's like, it's inevitable, it's finished, right? So a couple of times, but yeah, this voices in your head, they're there all the time. My head, I'm sure they're there in everyone's head. It's just like, what do you do about it? Do you listen to them or do you overrule them?
Yeah, but your tricep tendon's in bad shape and you're really hungry. I mean, you got so many physical pressures pushing into your brain saying, come on, let's pack this in.
Absolutely. And how can you compete against the best in the world when you can't train? I mean, I literally couldn't train for 3 weeks. Well, I said, okay, you can't train for 3 weeks with weights. Well, you've been training with weights for 12 years. So 3 weeks out of 12 years, I'm sure all the other guys have already took their 3 weeks earlier in the year. So now my 3 weeks is by the contest, obviously not ideal, but I got through it. But I know exactly what you mean with these, the voices. They still test me now. Every time I go up the hill on my bike, man, it's like a little bit. I mean, I've done it so many times, it's not so loud now, but it's a little bit like, I have to go all the way to the top today if you don't feel like it, because maybe you didn't get so much sleep last night, or maybe something, maybe this, maybe that, you know, whatever, you know? Yeah. So you can justify it to yourself, you know? Yeah. You know, you need, like you say, your knee's hurting today. I'm like, I'm just gonna keep going. Every time I get to the top, now, you know, I feel great. That's how you feel. If I went down that mountain halfway up and I went back down, man, I'd be like beating myself up all day. I'd feel like shit. And it's not a competition. I'm not winning money here or trophies or nothing. There's nobody with me. I'm on my own on my bike. No one will know if I don't go all the way to the top, but I will know. So I feel like I let myself down. So if I say I'm going to do this, I'm locking it. I'm doing it, man. If I know that I really don't want to do it, or it's not something I really want, or it's not going to be beneficial to me, I can already decide I'm not going to do it before I start doing it. But once I've committed, I can't back out at that point, because then you know, I'll see that as a weakness.
Yeah, I think it's some people are calling it the central governor theory, when your body starts introducing all of these things to just kind of limit its output, you know, and the idea that it's going to save you in the long run, you know, from an evolution standpoint. Yeah. But I can see it happening with my endurance races and things like that you were doing with training. And then once I saw it, I thought, this is working all the time in my life. Yes. It's telling me everything about myself every day. You're not this, you're not, don't go do that. Don't talk to that girl. Don't do that business. And it's running your life. It's governing you to be just kind of small. And
I get a little bit now because, you know, like these two, like in the cartoons, the two guys on the shoulders. Yeah. I got the guy saying, I need to do this today. And then I got the other guy saying, well, you can take some time off, man. You can be a bit lazy because look what you did earlier on. So sometimes the lazy guy wins now, but I let him. I'm like, yeah, okay. Like today, you know, you can relax a little bit because yeah, you did do a lot of shit there, and okay, maybe you deserve it today. So it is now. It's like getting a balance. Yeah. Now, you know, otherwise you can be a little OCD and too much. So everything's now for me is coming about getting into balance.
Can you talk about the psychology that you mentioned there? You're going into a competition. You are not 100%. You also are against guys where you know each one of them has little buttons you can push. And this is something that we don't see on the stage. And we all watched so much footage of you competing on the stage for the movie. And I recently watched Mr. Olympia. And, you know, you see all the physiques, but you forget there's a lot going on in the brain. Oh, yeah. And guys that have worked years on their physiques can get up there and drop the ball on stage, right? You've probably seen it. Or they can not be the best selves, right?
Yeah, absolutely, I've seen it.
How did you?
I mean, the only time I went to the Mr. Olympia, the first one I went to the Mr. Olympia was a new experience for me because I was competing against Lee Haney, who was 7 times Mr. Olympia. He was a Mr. Olympia in 1984, and I started training properly in 1983. So first of all, I had the barrier there with Lee Haney, that he was this guy, this great guy that I admired and a great champion, and it was like awesome and everything. So I had to change that to say, you know, and people helped me because they, you know, people in the industry are like, you know, you could give him a run and everything. So I started thinking like that. And by then I knew more, you know, and I was like, you know what? I don't think anyone's training like I do. I don't think anyone's training harder than me. So that gave me a little advantage. And I'm going to go, and I'm going to try to beat this guy. Not in a cocky way, but that's, I mean, I'm going, man. It's a competition. I want to win, yeah? That's why I'm going. So I want to beat this guy. So I had to change my mentality going up against Lee Haney. And then the second one, I got second in the first Mr. Olympia to Lee Haney. The second time I went, he wasn't there. So this was again, now I've lost the underdog status because Lee Haney's from the States and he's been a champion, and I'm just this kid from Birmingham that's got nothing. And so I can use that, yeah? I couldn't use that anymore because now I'm the favorite. So I had to change the mentality there to say, wow, so I'm the favorite now, so I could be the best in the world, which is a crazy thought when you think about it. Huh? Really, me? Yeah, man. Why not? Nobody gives as much as you, man. Haven't you seen that? Yeah, you're right. So the second one was different.
Is this a conversation you're having over many months? Like when you're in the gym, or is this a conversation you're having?
Ongoing. It's ongoing, I think, all the time. You know?
Do you have that when you're training sometimes?
No, when I'm training, I'm in a bubble. I don't think anything. I'm just doing. I'm constant. I mean, I'm in the muscle. I am the muscle. So I don't really think anything apart from that when I'm training. It's like a meditation. You try to, like, everything else is gone.
Just become one with your body.
Yeah. So it's ongoing all the time.
And this is months and months leading up. You're like, okay,
yeah, and then, you know, changing until I got to the contest. Like, no, man, I'm going to win this. I am the best. Yeah. And I won that one. And then. And
does that carry through with your posture? Do the guys feel it when you walk in the room? They're like, he's the best.
Yeah.
Okay, everything you do.
People have told me that. A good friend of mine, Chris Cormier, who's competing in the Mr. Olympia, the later ones, he's like, I couldn't even stand next to you, man. It felt like you had a force field coming off you, like a power, like confidence. And after I won the first one and went into the second one, I mean, I had that. And plus people knew that I had made huge improvements that year. So I had that and I carried that all the time. But that power level was way down on the last one. I can tell you that. I was not feeling myself. I was not feeling confident because I knew this injury was very serious. It was almost a complete detachment. And it's like this rope of a tendon was holding on by a little thread, and a knock on there, or even just tensing too hard. I was afraid to do that.
Could have snapped it.
Yeah, maybe. So you're going in there feeling very vulnerable. I never felt vulnerable before. I went in there vulnerable, and I think I was just glad to get out the other side of the contest. I mean, my arm was swollen the night before the contest. It was still very swollen with blood and fluids and everything. I had a guy who was helping me out. He had this machine on my arm pumping like for hours a day to get the fluids out. And then we had a lump here still the day before the contest, which was visible. And he came and got a syringe and pulled out like 20 mil of fluid and blood and everything off there. So cosmetically was less noticeable.
Because you couldn't have competed with a
And I only told like 2 people about this injury. Because if it was common knowledge, first of all, it gives the guys, the lion is wounded. Let's get him, you know. So I didn't want people to know, and I didn't want the judges to know, because they might be also scrutinizing. Oh, where is that injury? And noticing it more, perhaps. So I don't know if that would be possible it wouldn't be possible these days. There would be some guy from my gym that knew that I got injured that day. He'll be on the internet in 5 seconds, and it'll be all around the world. So I wouldn't be able to do that these days. So I knew that. I wasn't feeling powerful, but I didn't want to give encouragement and power to the other guys, so I kept it very quiet until after the contest was over.
Acting.
Yeah, it's acting, yeah.
And a day earlier, 2 days earlier, it would have been so disfigured.
Yeah, and I normally before a contest, I'm training up to 3 days before. I do like up to an hour a day of poses, the poses, so that everything's perfect on the stage. And it's very exhausting. In a pro show, you're up there for a couple of hours. And I mean, probably if somebody hasn't done it before, you look at these bodybuilders on stage and they're standing there like this, or they're doing the poses, and that might look pretty easy. But you are tensing every muscle in your body and holding it in this posture and trying to look like, you know, I didn't smile much, obviously. I was known not to smile, but anyway, looking confident, and it's fucking hard work. And if you don't prepare for that, man, I was always there. Maybe in 97 you see a little flakiness, but I was always there. Even if I was at the back of the row, I'll be standing there, I'll be holding that posture. I'll be like, I'll do this all fucking day if you want, like, you know? And other guys will be bending over, wiping their faces with a towel, drinking water, and gasping for air. So it's another little advantage I have. And I wasn't able to train, I wasn't able to even pose. I thought, if I pose and I squeeze too hard, I don't know what's gonna happen here, man. So it just felt like a kitten, not a lion, going in there. So yeah, that was, you know, but then it's another challenge. Maybe things were like too easy for me without this. So the universe decides to say, what do you do with this then, man? You know?
And you had done it for 6 years as well. I mean,
yeah.
If that injury hadn't happened, would you have had a couple of years left in you, or were you also...
You know what? It's like getting ready for 97. I distinctly remember this. I start to feel uncomfortable somehow. Like, why am I feeling uncomfortable? Because it feels like Groundhog Day, man. I feel like I've been doing this for too long.
And you were starting to feel it.
Starting to feel it, and I started to feel like this now is becoming a job. Not a passion / and a job, is becoming a job. And I feel like maybe I don't want to do this anymore, maybe. And what am I going to do if I'm not going to do this? So to answer your question, if I had not got injured, would I have done another one? I don't know. I don't know. But I would have been more involved. If I didn't compete, I could carry on like doing guest appearances and presenting my physique and all that, and being very involved. Whereas with the injury, I don't feel like I wanted to. Even after I had the surgery and everything got back, I couldn't lift properly. Like this side was now, I had a shoulder injury, I had a bicep injury, and now a tricep injury, all on the same side, which created a great imbalance with strength. So I was just had to be honest with myself, Lane, you can't even lift properly here, you know? So you will not be able to be as good as you were before. Logically, you cannot, yeah? And you're competing against the best in the world. You can't do that. Being less than your best and not able to train or anything. So that was it, man. Boom, finished. I didn't do any guest appearances because I thought, you know, I'm not happy with the way I look and I can't train properly. So it was like a dramatic exit, and one that I was not in control of, which was hard, because throughout my career I was strategizing, planning, doing what I wanted to do, the way I wanted to do it, and because I was number one, I could do that, you know. I remember Joe Weider coming to one of the photo shoots, and they wanted to do a muscle and fitness cover. Well, muscle and fitness is more mainstream, more commercial, so normally it was a guy and a woman, you know, in a pleasant pose and smiling and everything. And he's coming to the studio, which I remember asking him, like, Joe Weider's like multi-millionaire at that point, you know, he can do anything he wants. I'm like, Joe, why are you coming here, man, to this studio? And I said, if I was you, I wouldn't be coming here, man. I'd be on the beach, I'd be doing this or whatever. And he's like, because I love it, you know. This is my passion, and if I stop doing it, I'm just gonna wither away, you know. So all right. So that was an interesting conversation with somebody that was very successful and still doing, you know, he didn't need to be there. Somebody else could be there, but he wanted to be there. And he's like, Dorian, smile. You got to smile with the lady. And I had this strange accent, which I'm not very good at doing. People can do it much better than me. And I couldn't fucking smile, man.
Why?
I was like, why aren't you smiling? Because I couldn't. I was not an actor. I couldn't make the smile. I can now. Look, I'm smiling. If someone puts a camera in front of me now, I smile. But I'm a much more relaxed person then. I was so fucking intense, you know? And I didn't want to be there doing that photo shoot. I wanted to go back and train and do, I didn't want to be there, man. But it's part of the industry. And in the end, Joe Weider just said, just let him do what he wants. Like, I think that was his policy with me in the end, because nobody could really manipulate me or steer me. I'm just too stubborn. I wouldn't do it. So, I mean, if you're number 10, maybe it's a hard time doing that. But if you're number 1, I got away with it, fortunately.
And did this start kind of this blood and guts idea then to like the way that you portrayed yourself in media, this guy, the black and white.
Yeah, and I hated smiling for photos, so I was good at doing a moody, tough looking guy, which it's not really me if people know me, but it was an image, and it was with the physique and everything, it fitted, and it was, I could do that. So, well, people loved that. They bought into that, and they're like, so I didn't do any more muscle and fitness. I only done one. If anyone looks for it, you can see my best attempt at a smile.
I think
like
I've seen
the corner of my lips coming up a little bit with this skinny little model girl that I was with. So after that, it was like Dorian is a Flex guy. I mean, I don't know how many covers I had on Flex, but was a lot, over 20 covers on Flex magazine, which was the hardcore. So they're like, let Dorian do the hardcore stuff because we're not going to get him to do this foo-foo stuff,
And then later you put out your own videos, training in the dungeon, and that was the blood and guts stuff.
Yeah, I'm really glad that I did that now, because even I can look back and say, fuck, man. I mean, I've got it written down in all my diaries, what I did, what weights, what exercises, everything. But to actually visually see it, and me lifting the weights, and how I'm lifting the weights, and how much weights, and all that stuff. So I'm glad that we got that in, because we did that in '96. So 97 was the last year that I was training like that. Right. So I'm glad that that's there for everybody to see, and I mean, still super popular. People write to me all the time, like, this is what they use to pump themselves up before they go in the gym. And especially now, I mean, the kids are going back now and look, what the fuck, they're looking at this and looking at the guys, what they're doing now, and they're like, this is the fucking shit back here, man. This is inspiring us,
For people that haven't seen it, what does it look like?
Blood and Guts was, I mean, I was always disappointed in I used to buy the VHS, and watch the guys training before the Mr. Olympia and this and that. I was always very disappointed because it seemed to be like staged and pumping, and I'm like, I'm not getting inspired by this. And I realized what the problem was in those days was, I mean, to have a film camera and shit like that, I mean, you would be a proper film company. People don't have film cameras and iPhones and all that stuff. So if you want to make your VHS, you need to hire a media company, and they need to come and do it. And they want to do it from their point of view, which is technical. They want the correct lighting, they want the correct positioning, they want take 1, take 2, take 3, and get it all perfect, I was like, I don't want to do that, man. So I spoke to a friend of mine who's a photographer as well, Kevin Horton, who took the iconic now black and white pictures in the gym. Yeah. I said, hey man, look, can we like rent some equipment or something and you film? But I want to do it like this. I said, I don't want no fucking lighting. I said, I want you to come with a camera, yeah, and I'm going to train, and you're not going to talk to me. And I'm going to train exactly the way I always train. I'm going to be in the zone. I don't even want to know you're there. Don't talk to me. Don't ask me nothing. Just film as best as you can. And I want you to capture me and capture the energy, the intensity. And if you can get the weights in as well, so people see how much weight I'm lifting, let's get that in as well. But apart from that, I mean, angles, lights, fuck that shit, man. Just get in there and let's do it. So we did that, and watching afterwards we've gone home and watching it, and I'm like, something doesn't seem right here. I say, hey Kev, like, can I turn off the collar and put it in black and white? So we did that, and I'm like, yes, that's it. I remember the movie with Robert De Niro, Raging Bull. Have you ever seen that movie?
Yeah, of course.
Raging Bull. It's in black and white. Yeah. And it just seems so much more atmospheric and real and hardcore, and it's in black and white, and you see the blood coming out and all this. And that's the kind of feel that I wanted there. So it's down in the basement, me and my training partner training away, and it's just real training. And that is exactly what I did day in, day out, year round. There was nothing different for the camera or anything like that. So it's very genuine training. And also after we filmed it, I was thinking to put some instructional stuffs on there, like, do this, do that, do them. I said, no, I don't need that, man. I mean, just watch it. Just look. I don't need to sell you control the weight on the negative and do this and, like I'm doing it, right? So people can see. I don't really need to say anything. So we just left it like that. And I'm sure it's probably the most popular training video that ever came out of bodybuilding, and still now what are we, more than 20 years later.
Yeah.
And it's still out there on YouTube. People still making clips. They get some London Real or some Joe Rogan and some Blood and Guts, and they make these little inspirational videos that's all over the internet now. They're viral. So, yeah, I'm really glad that I got all that on. There's a couple of things that I was, you know, slight shoulder injury and stuff, so I changed some of the stuff around a little bit from maybe a year or two before. But 95% of my training that got me to Mr. Olympia was in that VHS, as it was on DVD and everything.
And when people watch those, they see a man who's, what do they see? You're not possessed, but you're just so in this zone. You're just like a man doing work. I don't know, where are you?
I'm in a zone, man. I'm in a zone. I'm in a bubble. I still can do it. People comment, if I'm training somebody in the gym now, I'm in the same zone. I'm with them. It's me and you in the gym, Brian. Fuck this shit. There's nothing here. There's me and you and the weights. Let's do it. And I create this bubble around me, and people can walk in the gym that know me, and they can't even catch my eye. I don't even know they're there until after they're like, hey, man, hey, I'm back in a bubble. So I create a bubble, and there was not a lot of people in the gym when I was there. It was my own gym, so we used to go in the morning. I mean, it might seem funny now. Now the gyms are open like from 5 in the morning or 6 or even 24 hours. We used to open at midday, 12 o'clock, till 8 in the evening. And it was kind of average, it was okay. So I used to go train and then 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. So by the time people were coming in for the 12 o'clock, I was pretty much wrapped up. So I had the gym to myself. And I'd be just totally focused before I got there, tunnel vision. I've already visualized what I'm gonna do, which exercise, which order, which clothes I'm going to wear, and visualize myself on the bench lifting it. Look at my training journal. Last week I did X amount for 7 reps. So that's today's goal. Beat that. Get 8 reps. That's the goal. So I got a goal very firm in my mind when I'm going there, which is important. You can go in the gym and have no goal and just wander around. You're not going to get very far. And then I got this energy that was almost like violence, you know. Probably I used a lot of anger that I had in me from my childhood and so on. I don't know, but instead of it going all over the fucking place, yeah, in people's faces and this and that and creating problems for me and everybody else, it was all internalized, and then it was into those sets, into those weights. So in between sets, you see me like almost, I'm like pacing up and down like an animal, like I'm. But it was controlled aggression. I didn't make a lot of noise. It was like inside, like a fire, like, and I just put all that into the workout. So I'm pretty calm by the time I got home. I'm like, you know, I didn't want to rip anyone's head off or anything. It was like all out in the gym. So
and the hour
that
before,
was helpful for me.
Are you the hour before you go in there? Are you getting into the mental zone? Are you bringing back that channeling that anger?
The anger thing was not something. It's things that I'm probably more conscious of now than I was then. I just called it focus and energy, but I was using probably some negative emotions, but not negative for me. They could have been, but I was getting them out. So now they're not negative anymore. They're becoming, it's like an alchemy. Yeah. You're changing that negative things, the traumas, the things you're not happy with, which most of the time they're very deep anyway. They're deep, they're not on the surface that you can recognize them. They're deep down, and you're like pulling it out. So. Yeah, before I drove to the gym, I used to sit down in a quiet space in my house and go through my journals, see what I've done, what's the goals, how important is this to you, you know? Is it more important than the temporary discomfort or fear you might have of getting under this weight or whatever? Yes, absolutely. So I affirm this in my mind, exactly what I'm going to do when I go to the gym. I get there, I'd see my training partner, be like, what's up? Let's go. Oh, fucking, oh, how was with your wife? What happened last night? Did you see this on TV? None of that shit, yeah? After the workout, yeah, we used to do that. Bullshit, hang around with the guys. You know how it in the gym, it's very male, macho environment, especially then. I mean, it was very, I don't know, there was just a couple of brave girls that used to come down the gym because they wanted to train properly. And they wouldn't have no fucking lycras on with their ass hanging out and everything like now, that's nice to look at, but don't need the distraction. So there'd be a few girls there sometimes, but mainly it was just guys, and very, you know, it was a very macho place. People were scared to come down there because you got to go down this narrow stairs, like going down and descending into hell or something, and you just hear these noises and the weights, and a lot of people wouldn't even go there. They're like, no, well, I can't go there, man. I mean, it was a bit of an illusion, because once you got there, it'd be all right, but it was a pretty scary place and not very friendly, because I didn't give a shit about the gym making money. Making money being Mr. Olympia, and this is my place where I train. If you want to come and train here and pay your fees, very welcome to, but don't expect a reception committee or nothing like that. You might get a grunt from the guy behind the counter, like, oh, you know, that's it, you know. So yeah, the gym became and the gym had an amazing atmosphere because of all that. Like, people used to walk down there and feel like, whoa, you know, fuck, let's train, man. I mean, there wasn't anything else to do there anyway. It was a table with a couple of chairs for after training, you wanted protein or something, and a little counter. The rest was just in a changing room with a shower that worked sometimes, and a toilet with no seat on, and we had actually mushrooms growing out of the wall and everything. But it was great. We loved it like that. We didn't want this nice place to go to. It's about work. It's about sweat. It's not nice. You know, it's not shiny. It's not cosmetic. It's work, man. You know, and I came from a working class background. I worked in a slaughterhouse. I worked on construction things. I mean, you get dirty, it's work, man. So we're used to that stuff, you know. So yeah, it was a very special place. Unfortunately, it's no longer there. The building's there, but the gym's not there. It's relocated to another location. But it was, yeah, people used to comment and come down there, and I'm like, yeah, I've done that. I've fucking done that, man. I've embedded this place, like 10 years of super hardcore training, so people felt that. Your
energy was in
and they used to say, like, if you go away from the gym for a few weeks, the energy level starts dropping down, and then when you come back again, it's like boom. So it was a very special place for me, and even a lot of people to this day, they're like, man, that was just some special place and period of time that somehow it's inevitable it had to close, because you can't preserve that. You know, there's a certain time and atmosphere, and nothing lasts forever. So you're trying to preserve something that doesn't really exist so much anymore. So, you know, it was hard for me. It was a shame that I had to go, but there was a lot of problems with the place and the building and the landlord and everything. In the end, it was just like, everything's telling me this, just time to move on from this. Yeah. So it's a shame, but it's all preserved in pictures and video and everything.
You mentioned the trauma. Do you think trauma is stored inside of us physically?
Yes, absolutely. What happened to you when you came to do yoga with me?
Started crying.
Yeah. Where's the crying coming from? Where did that come from? Because you've stretched out all these muscles. You've stretched, you've moved, and something has been released. Apparently we store a lot of trauma and stress in our psoas, which normally doesn't get stretched because we're sitting down a lot of the time. So within yoga, you're stretching this area, the psoas and everything. So I think things do get released, and it hasn't happened to me now lately, but the savasana, we call it at the end. You know where you lie down? Yeah. They call it the corpse pose. You're lying there at the end of the session. It's like a meditation. And I came out of that a couple of times, and myself, I was crying. And I didn't exactly know why, but I felt a very strong feminine presence, as if I needed more of that, because I'd just been too male and stiff and rigid and macho and weights and everything, and yoga is the opposite of that. So it was good for me, and definitely released some stuff. I don't do it now because maybe most of it's come out, but I think it's an ongoing thing, man. Once you start getting into this world and being interested in the spirituality of life, I think a lot of people, and I think I used to think this, is like, people that are into this, everything's great in their life, and they just sit there and it's like, whoa, and everything's great. Actually, when you start digging into it, you know, sometimes it's tough, it's work, it's trauma, and a lot of time people they just rather not deal with it and keep it buried. So the same thing with the ayahuasca ceremonies. People maybe get the wrong idea about that, but when you go there, they actually call it work. You know, you're coming here to do work, man. This is not fun. This is not recreational. This is work. This is going deep inside yourself and in your soul and looking at yourself and finding things out and getting them out and just trying to, I don't know if this even makes sense, be a better person, but it's not being a better person. It's just, you know, maybe getting closer to the truth, closer to what you really are, and more away from the illusion and so on. So yeah, it's following the spiritual path it's not always easy.
I found a lot of my childhood traumas came up in the Ironman race.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of flashbacks, and I sometimes would be running with tears in my eyes, and a lot of stuff came up. I'll be honest, Dorian, you'll see in the movie. And
brilliant.
And I'm wondering if and I could see a lot of me in my childhood traumas, you know, and I was wondering if you think your personality and all of your Mr. Olympia titles were because of childhood traumas and your father dying when you were young. I mean, is that stuff there, or do you ever go back to try to unpiece that?
Well, I often think, well, if there was a Dorian who had a nice, stable family and, you know, support and encouragement and a pathway from that into this career or that career or this and that, would Dorian Yates the bodybuilder exist? No, I don't think so, man. I mean, I put myself through some fucking pain and some shit, and I needed fuel for that from somewhere. I didn't know at the time. I mean, most of this stuff is in the subconscious anyway. Subconscious is controlling a lot, but you can't see it. You don't know it's there. And sometimes something like this, maybe you're in an extreme state of exhaustion while you're training and you're doing this Ironman, and something opens up because of that, and it starts coming out, and you didn't even know it was there. And you know, I'm still working on that. But I often thought that, like, you know, should I be mad with my parents for like doing what I consider to be not a great job there? My father died at 13, so I mean, he's in control of that, but I felt like you just fucking left me here, like at 13. So I'm sure I used a lot of that, and I'm sure I felt like a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, or maybe not a little bit, like a big fucking chip on my shoulder. I need to prove something here to people, that, you know, I am somebody, that I can do something. And it's all that drive, you know, it's got to come from somewhere.
Why was that chip there? Because you felt like you came from nothing? I
came from nothing. I felt like nobody gave a shit about me. Nobody's trying to help me. And
parents weren't very attentive, not a lot of affection.
No, I mean, my father died at 13, and up until then my life was fairly stable, but we weren't really a family. We never did anything as a family. I didn't see my dad that much, but at least there was a unit there, a mom, a dad, and some stability. When my dad died, everything just got turned upside down, and I felt like nobody was considering my position or even really discussing the situation with me. So I couldn't wait to grow up. I had a conversation with my daughter, which was really nice. You know, one time, I think she's 17 now, I think she was about 12 or 13, and she's like, Dad, I don't never want to grow up. I want to stay like this if I could. I'm like, why is that then? She's like, yeah, because when you grow up, there's all kind of responsibilities and things you got to deal with, like, you know, jobs and bills and all this stuff. She said, I'm just free. I'm like, you know, so happy and everything. Being like this age, I'm like, wow, that's amazing to hear that, because when I was your age, all I wanted to do was grow the fuck up, yeah? So I can get control on my own life, because everyone's like, I feel like they're letting me down. So maybe that's also why I was attracted to bodybuilding, because it was very individual. And I always kept it like that. I didn't have coach, I didn't have anything. I worked everything out myself. I did the work myself. I did everything myself. Win or lose, it's down to me. Of course, you got people that support you and everything, but really you got to do it yourself. It's not a team effort. And I felt like that in life, like I'm here alone, I got to fight, I got to prove myself here. So I give myself no time to relax. Now I'm thinking, well, hey man, that's, you know, the two voices I got. Sometimes when I want to chill out and not do what I maybe was setting out to do initially, come on man, give yourself some slack, because you did do all that stuff, you know. So sometimes I do get a bit lazy, allow myself to, you know.
Do you ever?
It's interesting. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, Brian. It's interesting. Anyway, I know the story. Flex Wheeler and Kevin Leverone. I think Kevin lost both of his parents when he was young, and Flex comes from a broken family background. I think just the mom was there and everything. So, three of us had kind of a little bit traumatic childhoods, and we're all like, you know, top 3 in the bodybuilding in the 90s. So it's interesting that maybe all 3 of us were driven from somewhere from the childhood. I think that so much stuff comes from your childhood, and that's why you got to go back sometimes, and look at it, you know.
And then how do you get your head around that if you're raising your own kids?
Try to not make the mistakes that I feel that my parents made.
But does that mean they won't become great? at something?
No, I think there's many ways to become great. But bodybuilding is a very extreme pursuit, let's say. There's lots of things in life that don't require that absolute, you know, dedication and anger and drive, if you like. I think sports is one way that could be an advantage, but there's other things in life. My daughter wants to be a photographer, so she don't need to be, you know, use anger and trauma as a fuel for that. She needs the support. She's here today with me and talking with your media guys and everything. So it's great that she's getting introduced to that world through her dad. You know, I'm giving her like opening doors, which I would like if my parents had done that. But if they had done that, maybe I would be down a different career that was more comfortable, and we wouldn't have seen Dorian Yates, the bodybuilder. So I'm not angry with my parents or anything. I'm like, almost like, thanks for that, because without that, I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I wouldn't have guys coming up to me at Expo saying, Dorian, you saved my life, you changed my life. I get this all the time. And people like, I changed my career because I heard you know, you've been able to change. So I was inspired, I changed my career, I changed the location where I live, I was stuck, I wasn't happy, and I realized I can change. So none of that would have happened if Dorian wasn't a bodybuilder, because I wouldn't be sitting here, because you were talking to me initially because I was 6 times Mr. Olympia. That's why I came on the show in the first place, right? So I think I have to be grateful that everything that happened brought me to what's going on now.